Well, welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. My name is Jim, and I am joined today by David. David, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, man. I cover the Eagles for the Philly Sports Network and the Metro Philly paper, and it seems likely that they might draft an edge rusher this year. So I've been pretty excited to delve into this and see what this class has to offer. And so far, it is really deep and probably one of the better positions to need going into the 2025 draft.
Definitely. So we have a daily podcast in this channel. So anybody watching, there's content in this channel every day. There are so many edges. We actually have 2 podcasts on edges. So there's just a lot of them. I think we're sorting through between 40 and 50 amongst all the different podcasts and trying to divide them up. So we're going to be covering 6 of the edges today. And the first edge we're going to talk about is Mr. David Walker from Central Arkansas. So David, what can you tell us about Mr. David Walker?
When I started watching him, I actually found him to be one of the biggest sleepers in the class. He came back to play out his senior year. He looks built to be a pass rusher. He has excellent closing speed. He displays a really high football IQ by always having a game plan to get to the quarterback. He sets offensive linemen up. He's very fun to watch. He makes the OLs guess what he is doing more than vice versa. He just always has a very fantastic approach. He knows how to take advantage of them and use leverage. He has pressured quarterbacks by both his hand in the dirt and coming at him standing up. He's a really strong tackler. He plays with an edge. He has a good motor. He's always causing havoc. He's elusive. And as I mentioned, for someone who covers the Eagles, a couple of the scouts who I spoke to when I was trying to get some more information on him, both of them used the same comp of comparing him to fellow Eagles defensive edge Brandon Graham. So I found that really interesting and made him a little more enjoyable for me to see there. He's one of the better defensive players in the FSC. I have him currently as like a 3rd rounder. I don't know if 3rd, 4th round, maybe kind of guy. He could go higher. You know, there's 5 more months to show what you can do here before the draft. But yeah, he's a pretty exciting player.
And I think as I was putting some of the stuff together for the podcast, I think he has an invite to an all-star game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It might be, I think the East-West Shrine. I thought maybe I saw his name checked, but it makes me smile to know that, you know, you were looking at edges, and I mean, it's very obvious watching your Twitter feed, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at edges, right? And to like throw a name out that maybe you hadn't been as familiar with, and then you actually get a comp for a player on your team, that made me smile.
That was wild. Yeah.
So I like that you think that the small school can go late day 2 or early day 3. So this is going to give you an idea, give a listener an idea as to the quality of the edge class, because this is a toolsy guy. He has traits. The biggest knock is always going to be the competition level. But at minimum, he would be able to make an NFL team as a special teamer, right? He has that athletic ability to play teams, even if he's not going to be playing edge every down as a rookie. So,
and the Eagles are a good landing spot for that too. And as are a lot of teams. Like this year, the Eagles have Jalix Hunt, who, you know, another guy comes from a small program, started off on special teams, but last week he played 42% of the defensive snaps. He's 9 weeks into this thing. He's starting to earn some playing time, and you're starting to see what he's able to do as a pass rusher.
Yep. Okay, so let's jump to our next player, Ahmed Hassanein from Boise State.
All right, this is a fun guy who I researched because I think I mentioned to you in the chat I had not really watched a lot of him either. This is a guy who I believe he grew up in Cairo, and when I was watching a interview with him, he was basically crediting how tough he is came from growing up there and the experiences he had growing there. Through 11 weeks, PFF has him graded at 76.6, which is good for 9th best edge in college football, which is incredible. He's got 7.5 sacks. Again, I mentioned that he's not somebody who I've, paid a lot of attention to, but he has risen up draft boards with his play this year. And you mentioned Boise State where he plays. I went to watch Ashton Genty. Is that how you say his name?
Yep.
And and I stayed to keep watching Ahmad. I mean, he was unbelievable. Last year, I think he had 12 and a half sacks. I mean, he's basically gone from a relative unknown to somebody who could be, a mid-round guy in this, stacked draft class for edge rushers.
Yeah, and one of the things I'd also like to point out with edges, right? Because there's always everybody wants the bendy edge, the Von Miller, or whoever is going to, sack the quarterback, right? But one of the things that I've noticed about edges is that, there's at least two different body types where you just need a guy who can set the edge on first and second down. And here would be a great example. So like Shaq Lawson for Buffalo, he was a bigger edge. You don't get a lot of pass rush juice from him, but you couldn't run outside of him. And to me, Hassanein is kind of like that body type where he can set the edge, right? What you do or don't get with the pass rush, he can still play early downs and help you set the edge. So that's something that I would look at. And there's a reason that PFF would have him graded highly if he's capable of doing that.
Yeah, that's
right,
that's
because
really
that's
good
part
point.
of how their grading works. So
Yeah, that's a really good point.
yeah. Okay, next edge, Xavier Carlton from California.
All right. Cal is starting to develop a lot of NFL defensive players. They have Noel Williams right now, and they're kind of working in concert with one another. His coverage helps Carlton's pressures. Carlton pressures helping him on the back end. Um, I think he was a Utah transfer. He is a little older. I believe he will be 25 before the 2025 NFL draft. But for a player who was questioned for his technique, he's come a long way. He's improved his pass rushing arsenal considerably. He's had year-to-year improvement. He was once considered to lack agility and speed and had some trouble changing directions. But he's really changed that narrative. He's had a strong season. He's the current ACC Defensive Lineman of the Week. He's third in the ACC and seventh nationally with 7 sacks. He's pretty exciting, but I think he will be kind of player that a team is going to be willing to take that kind of risk on because due to his age. I don't know if a lot of NFL teams are going to see him as somebody who can continually progress and, add tools to the box there, but he definitely has a value to some team in this NFL draft.
Well, and what kind of round grade did you have on him?
He was tough because of his age. I mean, if you look up players his age in the draft, it's, I don't know. I'm guessing like 5th round, 4th round if somebody really, jumps high on him, but I would guess more around 5th. But again, there's so many things. I mean, he could go to, a Senior Bowl or a combine or like you mentioned, the Shrine Game or something. He could be invited to something like this and suddenly his stock rises or drops precipitously. So it's hard. He's a hard one to kind of put down as something, just in my opinion, because of his age. I mean, I think there are a lot of ageists in the scout world here when you come to NFL drafts.
Cool. Okay. Jah Joyner from Minnesota.
Yeah, he's pretty exciting. Last year, I think he was 5th in college football in pass rush win rate at 23.1%. He had 7.5 sacks. Against Minnesota just a week ago, he had a strip sack that basically ended the game there. He played a season low 18 snaps against Illinois. Some people think he may be playing through an injury. He has held a lot. Like when I was watching some of the tape, he is constantly held, but he still gets to the quarterback. He's improved versus the run. A lot of people thought he was a liability there before and that he'd just be primarily a pass down specialist. But he's got good length, twitch, high effort. He has linear explosiveness. And when you look at some of his pass rush moves, I mean, he has a nice swim move, a spin move. a dip. He's had 27 pressures in 2024. He's a Feldman freak, squatting 615 pounds. So I mean, he's a pretty interesting player. I think he'll be somebody that could start ascending. He's been relatively unknown, but I don't think he's going to stay that way.
Yeah, so in the preseason, he was in the top 10 of edges. And Dane Brugler just released his top 50 yesterday, and there were 10 edges in the top 50, and Joyner was not one of the 10. So do you think he's a day 2 or a day 3 guy for you?
I had him ranked at around the third round, like around player 100-ish kind of range around there. And I appreciate that Dane Brugler tidbit. I didn't even realize that was released yet. I have to check that out.
Yeah, we actually, so if you're interested, we did a podcast on it last night where we went through the positional rankings of every position in his top 50. So we can, and generally speaking, because this is a daily podcast, if somebody wants to podcast about the top 50 again, it's great content and it helps me just keep the channel going, like, follow, subscribe. Every single day we get new followers on the channel. It's actually kind of exciting.
Yeah, that's great.
Most other draft channels, you're lucky if you get 2 episodes a week. And there's some days that we're doing 3 episodes, right? So just on this channel alone, just because we have so many people contributing, such as yourself. So that's much appreciated. So, okay. So we talked about Joyner. I would agree he's going to be late day 2 or very early day 3. And this is going to be a draft where I think a lot of teams are going to draft 2 edges. As long as they have spots on the 53 for him. And Joyner would be a great person to pair with maybe somebody that you take earlier in the draft. So I think whoever gets him, like right around that pick 100, is going to say that they got tremendous value. Because I think if Joyner had come out last year, because last year's edge class really wasn't that good, I think last year Joyner would have been mid-second round.
Yeah, he could have been. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was a much weaker
there really
class.
weren't that many. Yeah. Okay, so Amir Abdullah from Illinois State. Is this one of the guys you want me to lead off with?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So Illinois State, small school, and you can see from his 6'3", 215-pound frame, he does not have the ideal size as an edge. But boy, this guy has the athleticism to play edge. So obviously small school, he's probably going to be somewhere between round 5 to UDFA. You would draft him to probably put him on special teams, but you're definitely getting somebody that has the twitch and the athleticism to be a pass rusher. He's going to have some issues with his play strength. But this is a name that you want to at least pay attention to as we head into All-Star season. Because if he's invited to the combine, he is going to test well. The question will always be about the competition level. Did you have anything on Abdullah?
Yeah, his defensive coordinator says that he's got, a very deep toolbox. Like you said, his athleticism is, off the charts. Whoops. Sorry. His athleticism is off the charts. He had 3 seasons with Nebraska Kearney. Am I pronouncing that right? Kearney. And he had 1 sack during that time. And last year in 2023, he had 9.5. And it was the first time they'd ever taught him basically how to be, a pass rusher and let him loose. And he was new to it. He was quick to learn. He transitioned. This year, he spent some time learning more at the Exos Performance in Frisco, Texas. One of my brothers lives in Frisco, right behind there, and he said that Amir stated that he learned a few more new tricks while he was out there, and he added them to his tool bag, and he got a lot stronger. He realizes what he needs to do to overcome, the size issues, like you said, but if he can do that, he could be a very exciting player for somebody. And I agree with you where you put him in the draft. I mean, he's going to be somebody fun to watch because he is an ascending player, and that's always exciting.
And I think one of the things that should be pointed out is that if a player, especially an edge, can rush the passer, they can have a 10-year career playing 30% of the snaps as a situational pass rusher because the skill is so hard to find. And those guys are making $5 to $10 million a season. They're not even at the bottom of the payroll, right?
Right.
Just because it's so tough to find. So anytime you see an edge that has a little bit of pass rush juice but maybe can't play the run, there's going to be a spot on an NFL roster for them just to get the 30% of the snaps that are on third down in the fourth quarter. A great example of that, like last year, would have been like a Javon Solomon, right? And there's plenty of other situational edge rushers that are on NFL rosters, and they may not be household names. They may only be getting 6 sacks a season, but 6 sacks a season gets you a 10-year NFL career as an edge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great point.
Yeah. So, okay. And we're saving the best for last. So, Mike Green from Marshall. So, David, what do you have for the big finish?
I mean, he just had a great game. He just dominated with 9 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, forced fumble, 2 sacks. His closing speed is like a cheat code, man. He is almost unstoppable. He is double teamed early and often, and anytime he's left one-on-one, he just dominates, and teams quickly go back to double teaming him. He has a beautiful inside move. He plants his foot in the ground. He's fast, explosive on the outside. He is first for most tackles in the FBS with 60. He's first in the FBS in tackles for loss with 17.5. He's tied for first in FBS with 13 sacks with another one of my favorite players in the class, Antoine Ryland Powell, who we'll probably get to in another episode. Both are from Virginia. They're both Virginia natives. He's also first in negative sack yards. He's created 117 negative sack yards, which are just drive killers, man. He is a very exciting player. There's also some concerns with the level of competition, like we've mentioned with some of the other guys, but he has dominated everybody at this level of competition. So there's no concerns at all from my point of view. And I saw someone say, and I wish I could remember who it was to give him the credit, but he said there's 3 things you can count on in life, and that is death, taxes, and Mike Green getting a sack. So he's a pretty exciting guy.
Cool. And how high do you have him on your board?
I still have him around 3rd round because I just don't know how this shakes out. And again, it's just such a deep edge class. You got to find a lot of teams that are going to need it, but he's somebody who could definitely move higher, and you might have him higher as well. But I just haven't seen enough from some of the other players to really give a true rank. And I think I have ranked about 18 edge rushers so far, which is just incredible that there's that many of them, like around the top 100. But
yeah, so if you've ranked 18,
yeah, we
have about 22 more to go.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's a lot of them, right? Okay, so we talked about Mike Green last night because he's in Dane Brugler's top 50.
Wow. Okay.
Right. I believe he was edge 8 out of 10. So Dane had 10 edges in his top 50. Green was, I believe, 8. And now I'm trying to remember the 2 guys that were behind him. Oh, okay. I'd have to go like pull that up. But I do want to give a shout out to Broshmo. So Broshmo about 2 months ago said that he had Green as edge 3 with the potential for Green to be edge 1 off the board.
Wow.
So yeah, right now we're talking
board. I have him 11th.
Yeah. So right now we're talking about Green somewhere in round 2. I think by the time all of this is said and done, he doesn't get outside the top 20. NFL teams want a bendy edge, and they'll take a shot at somebody that has athleticism, and even if the competition level isn't quite right, I don't think he gets out of round one. Just personally, if a team, especially let's say at the back end of round one, that might need an edge, I could see Green being that like round 1-2 grade. He may not get a first round grade, but that doesn't mean he doesn't go in round one.
No, that's
right?
very true.
He has the athleticism. At minimum, his rookie year, he has the athleticism to play special teams. So he's going to be able to cover kicks and punts. You're going to be able to put him on the 53. You're going to be able to dress him on Sundays. And with that athleticism, getting situational pass rush, like we talked about with a couple of the other guys, if you give him a third down package, you can get him on the field as a rookie, which is an issue, right? Because if somebody's like 275 pounds and they don't have the pass rush juice, if they're having a trouble setting the edge, it's difficult to get on the field as a rookie. Whereas I think Green, you're going to be able to roster him. You're going to be able to dress him on Sundays, and you can grow him into a 3-down pass rusher, or excuse me, I should say a 3-down edge, knowing that you have the pass rush ability coming in on day one. So
that'd be a lot.
I'm
of
very
rushers
high
in
on
round
Mike
one.
Green. Yeah. So I think fans, granted, first of all, there's a lot of us talking about the draft, and just for reference, this episode is being recorded November 13th, and we still have half of the regular season left.
Right.
Right? Like, theoretically, there's still a chance that the Bills could miss the playoffs. Like, theoretically, right?
Yeah.
So, and like, there's a lot of football to be played. There's not a lot of people paying attention to the draft. But this is going to be somebody that I think fans are going to be talking about for the next 4 months.
Yeah, I agree
This
with
is
you.
a
He's
player
definitely
that
ascending.
I think people are going to be talking about him. So, and I believe that's our last guy. So I'm going to flip. Okay. So there we go. So these were Dane Brugler's top 10 edges.
And I'm looking at my list. I have everybody's in my same top 10 except for Kennard and Green, who I have 11 and 12.
Who did you have ahead of Green and Kennard? Just out of curiosity.
You're going to try to make me pronounce this guy's name. Princely?
Yep.
And
Leyland. Yes.
let me see the other one. Pierce. You got JT, you got Landon. Sawyer, is he on there?
Yes.
Peyton.
No.
Peyton.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yep, those are the
on
two.
this channel with David, we'll be covering all the guys that David had just listed. We'll be covering everybody here, but we're going to be spreading them out. So we're going to be doing somewhere between 6 and 8 edges per episode. And after 4 or 5 episodes, we will have talked about 40 edges. And there's a really good chance that 30 of those 40 get drafted. So cool.
And 15 of them could be, in the top 75 picks. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
So I think we're going to see about 15 edges go in the first 2 rounds. And my prediction is going to be 30 edges get drafted over 7 rounds. For the draft to have so many at a premium position, edge in 2025 is going to be like wide receiver in 2024.
Yeah, it's a great comp.
Yep. So, okay, well, David, we're going to close this episode out. You want to give any final parting words?
Now, you can follow everything I do at PHL Eagle News. Give a follow to Jim at NFL Draft Fanatic. I mean, if this is what you enjoy doing, I mean, they are going deeper than anybody I've seen so far this season. So give everybody there a follow. He has compiled a fantastic team there. I mean, there are so many people behind the scenes in these Discord chats and stuff, just talking prospects all day long. I can barely even keep up with how many comments we got going behind the scenes there. I mean, it's an incredible team you've put together. So congratulations to that.
Well, I appreciate that compliment. And one philosophy for anybody watching the podcast is that, to me, it's better to have a 30-minute conversation like David and I had and engage the fans with a 30-minute conversation than to go and look at your screen and try to thumb through Twitter. So NFL Draft Fanatics, we're trying to take Twitter draft and just turn it into people talking about the draft. I love David's content. Ironically, so David and I found each other on Twitter a few years ago. And I think this is the second or third time that you and I have podcasted together.
That's right.
But I absolutely love how you organize your draft content and you have original content. So give David a follow, even if, like, I am not an Eagles fan, but I follow David for draft content. It's there. He has football content. He has draft content. It's definitely good to see that in my feed from my standpoint. And so I appreciate it, David, and hopefully we can do this again next week, and
Absolutely.
we'll just keep going and do 8 more edges. So
Sounds good.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. On behalf of NFL Draft Fanatics, thank you very much for watching.